Okay, so you go to ASU, you graduate, you go to the Olympic trials, and there's sort of an interesting story about that.
Well, yes, I'll say my first Olympic trials was actually at 17 years of age as a high school senior. So my first one was in 1976, and then I progressively went through that. So even as you asked me my question, like my like high school achievements, but then going into what I did into my freshman year at Arizona State, I had a very Cinderella story. My freshman year at Arizona State, if you had looked at the class I was taking, there was no graduation for Dan Severn anytime soon because I took a lot of classes to see, can I make myself into the very best wrestler. So for example, I took a weightlifting class in order to design weightlifting programs for wrestling. I took a judo class so that I could learn to use my feet like a second pair of arms. And I mean, by taking these couple of different classes, it worked out for me. And I took a nutrition class, knowing that everything I put in my body that was going to make me into the ultimate wrestler. So I was undefeated my freshman year. I was 34-0, 24 pins. I set an NCAA record. And ironically, the guy that I lost to in high school, Ben Peterson. There's a pair of brothers, Ben and John Peterson. They were both Olympic gold medalists, and they were both Olympic silver medalists in two different Olympics. And so I wrestled one at the Olympic trials, Ben, and then less than a year later, here I am wrestling John as a freshman at Arizona State, and the match went about 1 minute. So yeah, I'll just say that I'm not saying that paybacks are bitch or something like that, but I mean I was a whole different animal at that point in time.
Okay, and I guess your plan was to basically go to the Olympics, win a gold medal,
Yes.
and then retire.
Yes,
But because things went a little different, it kind of set you off into a different path.
Exactly. Had things all gone right for me, I would have retired from athletics back in 1984 with the Olympic gold medal. But instead, I mean, because I had to sit there and watch, be the alternate, sit there and watch the Olympic Games, and the gentleman that was ahead of me, his name is Lou Bannock. I mean, he ended up winning the gold medal. He didn't give up a single point. Every person that he wrestled, I had pinned in under 1 minute. So it was a little bit hard for me to sit there. And as I tell people, people always say that they would have liked to have seen me in my heyday. Well, they never did. I mean, when I jumped in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, I jumped in the Ultimate Fighting Championship basically when I was 37 years of age. So, when I was at that, that 84 time period at that point, I mean, I was a much younger man at that time. And, for those 2 years from 84 to 86, I ruled the world only because I had some issues to work out. And I worked them out at the expense of most of my opponents. So if they wanted to see a real animal, they should have saw me at that period of time. Otherwise, they saw Dan Severn residue.
Okay, and you guys actually met at ASU.
At ASU, yeah.
Okay, who was better back then?
Well, okay, I was a coach at that time. Don was one of my wrestlers, but I knew Don on a much more personal level because he basically roomed with a couple of my brothers in an apartment.
Okay, you guys never went at it at that point?
No, not practice. Different weight class and stuff like that. Again, my duties were coaching duties, but I witnessed Don a few times at some after parties that Don already had a skill set that was intact. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Well, before UFC, you actually joined professional wrestling with the
as of
UWFI.
As of the 1992 Olympics, a new rule came down from the United States Olympic Committee that you could be both amateur and professional simultaneously as long as you weren't involved in high school athletics or collegiate athletics. You'd be still governed by High School Athletic Association rules or NCAA rules. I still wanted to try to make an Olympic team or world team, so I never turned before 92. I had different professional wrestling companies approaching me through the 80s, but I turned them down. But 92, I jumped on board because it was an opportunity that I may never get again.
Okay, and I'm not completely familiar with this league. Was this
professional
similar
wrestling
to like The UWFI.
Okay, okay, yeah. As of '92, I jumped into professional wrestling, but then also I was going over. So inside the United States, I was working for different professional wrestling companies, or I should say, professional wrestling or wrestling. Vince McMahon, professional wrestling. Okay, wink, wink, wink. So I was either doing professional wrestling or I was going over to Japan and I was doing matches for the UWFI, which was a strong style professional wrestling company. So it was more of a realistic look at that thing, but also it had kind of an echelon pace where in the opening couple matches were known as shoots, meaning they were legit for real. And then later in the card, they were all had their, it was like professional wrestling once again, but a very strong style that went over very big in Japan. So yes.
Got it. Okay, but then in 1994, you actually joined the UFC.
Yes, correct. A lot of people, a lot of stuff went in the media saying that I was a UFC practitioner and then I jumped into the professional wrestling, but it was just the opposite, just like you cover right now. As a professional wrestler first, even I believe I'm the only professional wrestler to ever have a professional wrestling belt carried out to the octagon cage and then go on to win then the UFC tournament. You know, back then was the tournament format, 3 matches.
Okay, so you joined at UFC 4.
Yeah.
And this was the very, very early stages of UFC. This is no weight classes. You can kick someone in the face when they're down.
Yeah. Known as NHB, no holds barred. It had 2 rules: no biting, no eye gouging into the rules.
There are more guidelines than rules.
Yeah.
Nobody paid attention to them anyways.
Well, again, as Don was saying, there wasn't grounds for disqualification. So you could still probably do the rules, but it just said, you know, try not to do these 2 rules.
Well, Gerard Gordeau gouged, he bit Royce, right? He bit his Royce and poked somebody else, you know, and then...
eye gouging has happened a few different times during that time span, but that's even happened even more, I think, more recently.
Right.
Mixed martial arts, a lot of eye poking.
You know, and I was a fan of UFC during that time. I used to go to Blockbuster and rent the VHS tapes and basically go home and watch the carnage that would happen in these rings.
Yeah.
And, you know, at that time, Royce Gracie was the superstar of the UFC. And you actually fought him in the finals of UFC 4, and you ended up losing to him. What was it like to fight Royce Gracie during that era?
Yeah, I'm gonna correct you here just a little bit. It's you saw me tap out. That's what you saw.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I want my people to understand this because this typically comes up because they talk about the Gracies, this, that, and the whole 9 yards, and I'm gonna go. But do you realize that the Gracies actually owned half that company at that point in time? They owned half the UFC at that point in time.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
And so. I like to think of myself as the monkey wrench that hit the system. So I was in UFC number 4. I only trained for 5 days, an hour and a half a day, and I jumped into the octagon cage. Now, try to find anybody else. Okay, when you look at modern day mixed martial artists, they take anywhere from 4 to 6 months of training before they go into that type of arena. I did 2 training camps in a 20-year career, once for 32 days, once for 35 days, for UFC number 5 and for the Ultimate. And then when you look at how many matches I've had and what my win-loss ratio is, you find another human being that walks this planet and that can make that claim. So that's why I said that I'm a different commodity in a lot of different ways. But if you actually talk to Big John McCarthy always says a lot of positive things because he knew that I was that athlete that knew how to use the rules to the best of my benefit. Now, getting back to what you asked me originally about, the Royce Gracie type situation was that my training camp down in Lima, Ohio, I only, like I said, it was only 5 days, an hour and a half a day. I was a professional wrestling ring was the closest thing I could come to an actual cage. There was only one cage at that point in time. It was owned by the Ultimate Fighting Championship. You fast forward to today, you could go into almost any community and you will find a full cage or a section of cage. And a lot of these gyms, they'll say that, yeah, we train UFC athletes, we train mixed martial arts, and most of these guys can't spell UFC, let alone be able to train it. And
Yeah.
so
If you spot the U and the C,
Yeah.
you can't spell it.
yeah, it's different. I mean, what it is for mentality. But I've been a coach at both Arizona State and Michigan State at that point. I ran practice, but I always tell people it's one thing to coach. Look at the two programs when I was there, how the teams did, and then after I left. And I always tell people that speaks volumes for what I brought to the table. So again, I'll just say that, sure, I tapped, but did I tap because someone beat me, or did I tap because I was unwilling to do what I had to do to another human being? Because at that point in time, I had been an amateur wrestler for 26 years. 26 years of rules and regulations of sportsmanlike conduct, and you would be disqualified for punching somebody. So I always tell people I was more torn with my conscience than I ever was with a human being.